Hello everyone, welcome to On Deck with Mercury. I'm Vienna Town Manager, Mercury Payton, and September is National Emergency Preparedness Month, which encourages everyone to be prepared for disasters and emergencies, not just in September, which is peak hurricane season, but all year long. And joining me this afternoon are two people who are quite well versed and experienced in emergency management. Police Chief Jim Morris, hi, how are you?
Hi, good, Mercury. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, all the time. And Vienna Fire Chief John Morrison.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, so we got John and Jim.
There you go.
All right, got that out of the way. Okay, good to see you both. So this is a good time of the year to talk about and highlight the emergency preparedness that we go through every year. This is the beginning of hurricane season, and we've had derechos, we've had tropical depressions and storms. Seems like we've had back in a couple decades ago, we'd have more hurricanes, but now we have more, seem like tropical depressions or whatever. But maybe help us to understand how you prioritize emergency calls and how you respond to whether it's inclement weather, whether it's a lot of rain, down power lines, any kind of emergency type of weather-related situation. How do you all respond to that?
Sure, I'll take first crack at it. Okay. Normally, especially when you're talking weather-related emergencies, we actually start days ahead of time. Yeah. Just like the storm coming up from Florida now, we track it. We try to track the weather. We try as best we can to predict what's going to happen. Sure. So we have an idea of how much to staff up, not staff up. And then once the weather hits, as we know, we're in the Emergency Operations Center. A lot of times we make decisions based on the weather, based on the severity of it. We prioritize calls. We have things called alarm policies, where if there's real windy day or something, we might put alarms on the back burner because there's a good chance that they're being caused by the wind. Same thing in a snowstorm. We have a lot of car accidents. If they're little fender benders in Whole Foods parking lot, we might not respond to them. We might just walk people through how to handle it because we just have too many calls for service. So life safety always has to come first, so some of the lower priority things have to wait.
Sure. And
very similar for the fire department, and much like the fire department plans and the police department plans, we encourage residents to plan as well and prep for these things, because a lot of these things are known beforehand that they're coming, much like this tropical storm coming up here shortly. But same thing where somebody having a stomach ache is a little different than somebody not breathing, right?
Big difference.
Wires down is different than my house is on fire. So we have different algorithms based on the type of call that comes into the 911 center, and based on that we respond as appropriate. And certain calls may back up, just like the wires down calls or fire alarms may back up a little bit as we respond to true emergencies. Right. But we get to everything eventually.
Sure, absolutely. And you just mentioned down power lines, snow, down trees. These are things that happen. What can residents do to prepare themselves? What are some things that they can do?
I think it's just normal safety measures residents need to take. They need to make sure they have the safety plan, make sure they know what they're going to do if they get snowed in. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough power? If you lose power, what are you going to do? Just basics like that. I like the old-fashioned flashlights with batteries, because then you don't have to worry about charging it. Sometimes, depending on the storm, you could go live with relatives that maybe have a generator, or if isolated storm, you could go stay in a hotel somewhere. Just measures like that on what you will do to keep your family safe if you're stuck in your house without electricity, without water for an extended period of time.
Sure. Anything else that?
Yeah, and just planning for it. Have that emergency plan. Know that if you have a fire in your house, where you're going to meet outside. Having an exit drill so you all meet at the front lamppost or a tree or the mailbox. Making sure that you do things like closing your door when you sleep. We call that close before you doze. That prevents the fire from getting in. Yeah, see, you got things that rhyme. Stick in the brain.
Stop, drop, roll.
Yeah, stop, drop, roll. Yeah. But close before you doze is a campaign that we have that encourages residents to close the doors when they sleep, because that prevents the fire and smoke from getting into the rooms where people are sleeping. So whether it's a child's bedroom or your own personal bedroom, make sure you close those doors before you sleep. Again, preparing for an emergency.
Right. That's excellent.
And cell phones have really changed a little bit of emergency preparedness too, because everybody's information is in their cell phone. Do you have phone numbers? Do you have things you may need if your cell phone can't get charged and goes dead? Yeah. So I recommend people have copies of all that, but also get those little portable chargers for your phone. So you could do without power for a day and still have access to all your phone.
And also make sure that's charged, because if you just
Yes.
charge it once and then leave it for a year, it may not be charged when you go to use it.
That's
So
a good point. That's a good point. You all mentioned an emergency preparedness kit for home. What should go in that kit?
I'd start with a first aid kit, certainly in case anyone's injured, and that's where you get into the flashlights, the food, like John mentioned, plans on where you're gonna meet up if you get separated. How's that gonna work? Just items like that.
And make sure it's customized towards you. You know, having prescription medications, if you have a child, diapers or infant formula, things like that that are specific for your family. It's designed to be customized for you. So make sure that it's right and can take care of the people that you care about.
Great, great. And there's some website, ready.gov.
Yep.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so ready.gov is Department of Homeland Security. It's got great pre-plans that people can go and download and understand, you know, how weather might affect them and what they can do to build these emergency preparedness kits.
Good, good, good. And when emergencies localized, such as individual medical emergency or house fire, people can generally expect to see response in a few minutes here in Vienna. But in a community-wide natural disaster, sometimes the wait can be a little bit longer. How should people be prepared if they have to go it alone for an extended period of time?
Well, that's back to the emergency preparedness, is to have a plan, a kit for you if it is going to take a little while. It's also a level of understanding. Like I talked about an accident. If you're in a vehicle accident and it's a snowstorm, you know, you may have to wait for a little while for the police to get there. And that's just the understanding of the pressure. The bigger the storm, the more pressure the services are on us. We get more calls for service. We have to prioritize. So it might be a while for us to get there.
Yeah.
We switch over and handle a lot of things by the phone.
Right.
If you get a call, if you want to have an officer and just get some advice on what to do, we'll do a lot of those over the phone, whereas a day like today, we might drive to your house in the middle of a snowstorm. We won't. We'll call you and see if we can help you over the phone.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add on?
No, it goes back to the prioritization. It may take a lot longer, and things like snowstorms, an emergency that may take 30 or 45 minutes to mitigate in a snowstorm may take 2 or 3 hours, and that just ties up resources for a longer period of time, because you have to trudge into a house and then get the patient out, or everything just takes a little bit longer during a storm. Roads may be blocked, especially if you have a derecho coming through. So there's a lot of things that residents can do. One of the things, there's a community emergency response team that the county sponsors that teaches people basic search and rescue, basic first aid, and it's a free program that you can go and participate in, and they have a couple week-long class and teach you some basics that if emergency services aren't able to respond to your emergency immediately, you can help yourself.
Sure, absolutely. I've heard some people invest in a backup generator for their home. Is this a good idea? Is it worth it?
It's certainly a good idea. I usually advise people, I base it on how often your power goes out. If you're living in a house that your power has never gone out in, I'm not sure you need to invest in a generator. But if you're in an area where you do have regular power outages, it is a good investment. And there's various levels for it. You can have a whole house generator that's plugged right into your electrical system. You can have independently standalone gas run. And nowadays I'm seeing more and more of the solar ones, just the small little compact ones, just to keep some power on.
Yeah, and one of the things to be aware of, though, is the whole home ones that are plugged into your electrical box, those are professionally installed. If you do have one of those portable generators, you want to be aware of carbon monoxide. So running that indoors or in your garage is a very bad idea, because that carbon monoxide can build into your house, and then it's obviously an odorless gas. So we want to make sure that we're properly venting things to the outside, and that you have carbon monoxide detectors that have a battery backup that are in your house, so you can make sure that you're being safe.
And that reminds me, is there a certain time of the year that people should check their fire fire alarm?
Yeah, so we tell them when you change your clocks, check your batteries. A lot of these batteries now, a lot of the smoke alarms are 10-year lithium-ion batteries. They just basically stay, and you don't need to really do much with them. But just check it, make sure you do your test, and it'll tell you that the smoke alarm's working.
And often, aren't they also fire and carbon detectors as well?
There are certain ones that are out there. You can get them independent of each other or both combined into one. There's price points for different people, but we recommend recommend that we have smoke alarms in every sleeping area and at least on every floor, and then carbon monoxide detectors on every floor.
So in the fall, when we fall back with the time, also change your batteries.
Yeah, change the batteries if they do
Okay.
change, or just check them if you don't need to change them.
Got it. So the town also has emergency shelters, or at least a plan for them. Talk a little bit about how that gets triggered and where they're located. And stuff.
Sure, and that's a common misconception. The town really doesn't have shelters.
Right.
The county runs a shelter program,
Right.
and it's usually the high schools in the county.
Right.
So if one needs opened, it's usually the county's Office of Emergency Management that would open it up. And they take over that task because to actually run a shelter properly, you need the Red Cross, you need the ability to feed people, you need the ability to have animals there, you need the ability for people to come in and sleep. That's why the county has taken the program. Here, I would assume it would be Madison High School if something went on, but I know they have them already pre-designated.
Sure.
So we would just plug into that. If we had a need, we would then start making calls, reaching out to the county for, where they could help.
Sure, and I just heard you say this briefly. So we have a local emergency operations, and the emergency operations, is that more like the county? Is that the emergency operations?
Yeah, we have,
distinction?
that's sort of what we're in. We're in the local emergency operations center. That's why I call it local.
Right.
If we had an incident in Vienna, a small incident, but it takes some coordination. We needed to bring you in to make decisions. We need to bring Marion Surface in to make some money decisions. We can do all that right here.
Sure.
If it was a national emergency, we would all have seats in the Fairfax County EOC, where those decisions would be made. So we sort of umbilical cord to those, that group.
Sure. And whatever the emergency, the key point I'm hearing today is that we should all take time to prepare in advance and be ready just in case. Is that kind of the theme that we're kind of conveying today?
Sure.
You think so?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You don't want to do your emergency planning during an emergency.
Right.
So make sure you plan and then exercise your plan so that everybody knows. So the first time you do your emergency planning or your emergency response is not during the emergency. So plan, practice, and be ready to go.
Got it. Anything that you all think that maybe was missed today so far that residents and everyone needs to know about?
I would just mention it's like John said about planning. We do tabletop exercises. We do, in the winter, we'll do a snowstorm exercise. This time of year, we'll do a tropical storm exercise. In the spring, we'll do usually it's a Viva Vienna type event exercise. So we, just like we were telling residents to do, we exercise our plans that the town has also.
Sure. And weather-related stuff, you're talking about something coming up from the Florida area. Any particular way they should monitor that? Should it be like the Weather Channel, or is it like your local news? Is it a radio station? Like how, if people are interested in saying, oh, there's a storm coming, what's the best source to monitor that stuff?
I think any of those is a good
yeah.
source. It's usually all the similar information coming up. There's alerts you can sign up for and get.
Right.
But if you're actively paying attention to a storm and seeking information, you can get it from any one
Any
of those
sources?
Yep.
Yeah, National Weather Service,
Right.
any of those.
So, and most of ours are, you can kind of see it coming maybe weeks or days in advance. We mentioned a derecho, which kind of just popped up. I remember maybe about 10 years ago, where out of nowhere you get this windstorm and it kind of takes out power. So what in those kind of situations, when it just happens on us, any advice for something that's spur of the moment that we didn't anticipate?
I think that goes back to the whole theme we're talking about here. Is just being prepared. I know John in the fire service and me in the police department, we're always practicing different things because you don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
So when they pop up quickly like that, we rely back on what procedures we already have in place to handle it.
Sure.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you both for spending time here talking a little bit about emergency management. I know it's sunny outside and not a cloud in the sky right now, but that's why we prepare today for what might come.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. And so I really appreciate you all tuning in to On Deck with Mercury this time to talk about emergency preparedness. And I'd like to thank Chief for allowing us to use this space here, the local emergency management center here. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their summer and look forward to seeing you next time on Deck with Mercury. Thank you.